On the subject of the resurrection of Jesus, Rabbi Michael Skobac explored the contrasting Jewish and Christian perspectives on both the Messiah and the resurrection. He says that the Hebrew Bible paints the Messiah as the King of Israel who restores the world. Israel regathers, the temple is rebuilt, and peace covers the earth. Jesus didn't do any of that.
Those are the expectations, but Christians see the Messiah's work unfolding in two phases. At his first coming, Jesus dealt with sin and conquered death through his resurrection. At his second coming, he will complete the restoration, peace, land, temple, and worldwide knowledge of God. The resurrection is God's pledge that the rest will surely come.
But the rabbi points out that Jesus' earliest followers expected him to fulfill that Jewish program. When he was crucified, they must have been devastated. To handle the disappointment, they convinced themselves he had risen from the dead. Isn't that just cognitive dissonance?
That theory doesn't align with history. I understand why the rabbi suggests the disciples were disillusioned. After all, a crucified Messiah was the ultimate contradiction. Deuteronomy 21:23 declares that anyone hanged on a tree is cursed. Typically, when a messianic movement ended in crucifixion, the followers dispersed in disappointment. But Jesus' disciples did the opposite. They didn't merely cling to hope. They proclaimed something entirely new and bold, that God had raised him from the dead. This wasn't psychological denial. It was their response to what they were convinced was real. And their conviction wasn't vague or abstract. They insisted they had seen him, touched him, and even eaten with him. That goes far beyond wishful thinking.
Rabbi Skobac says Christianity shifted the meaning of the Messiah. Instead of Israel's national redeemer, Jesus was recast as the savior of individuals from sin. Isn't that a significant change?
It is a broader vision, but not a contradiction to it. The Hebrew scriptures already connect Israel's redemption with blessings for the nations. The first mission was to bring atonement and open salvation to all nations. Genesis 12, verse 3 says, "All the families of the earth shall be blessed." Isaiah 49, verse 6 says, "The Messiah will be a light to the Gentiles, and he will be his salvation to the ends of the earth." Isaiah 53 says that he was wounded for our transgressions and bruised for our iniquities. Jesus first brings forgiveness of sins, the root problem, and then will bring national and cosmic restoration. Christianity didn't abandon the Jewish program. It saw the Messiah's work in stages, starting with salvation that reaches Jews and Gentiles alike.
But Rabbi Skobac reminds us, Judaism already believed in resurrection, but as a future event for everyone, not one person rising ahead of time. Doesn't that make the Christian claim suspicious?
Actually, Jesus' resurrection fits within Jewish expectation. It's just surprising in its timing. The prophets, like Daniel 12:2, spoke of resurrection at the end. Jesus is called the first fruits, 1 Corinthians 15:20, the beginning of that general resurrection. His rising early doesn't contradict Jewish belief. It inaugurates it, showing that the age to come has already broken into history.
But the only sources for the resurrection are Christian writings, written decades later by biased believers. There's no external evidence.
New Testament writers were believers, but they were also eyewitnesses or close associates. Paul's creed in 1 Corinthians 15:3-7 dates to within 3 to 5 years of the crucifixion, far too early for legend. And Paul names eyewitnesses like Peter, James, and 500 others, basically inviting people to check. There are indeed no independent foreign accounts from eyewitnesses who personally saw the risen Jesus. Jesus did not appear to foreigners after his resurrection because the event was first and foremost a Jewish covenantal revelation, not the universal spectacle. According to Acts 10:41, God caused the risen Jesus to be seen only by witnesses whom he had chosen beforehand. Reflecting the consistent biblical pattern of revelation through select individuals who would later testify to others, just as God revealed himself to Abraham and Moses before sending them to proclaim his message. The purpose of the resurrection appearances was to vindicate Jesus within Israel's story, demonstrating God's faithfulness to his covenant people. Pinchas Lapid, a Jewish historian, affirmed this view. In his book, The Resurrection of Jesus, A Jewish Perspective, he wrote that the resurrection was a divine act of vindication for Jesus' faith and mission. intended first for Israel rather than as immediate proof to the Gentile world. Theologically, the limited appearances also preserve the principle of faith over coercion. God provides enough evidence for sincere seekers, but not so much as to compel belief by force. Historically, mass appearances would not necessarily have convinced skeptics, who might have dismissed them as illusion or sorcery, whereas the transformed lives of a few credible witnesses became enduring testimony. Thus, the resurrection's restricted audience fits both the Jewish framework of divine revelation and the moral logic of faith that underlies the Christian message.
Rabbi Skobac says the story developed over time. Paul describes a vision. Mark ends with an empty tomb. And then Matthew, Luke, and John add physical details like eating fish or touching wounds. Isn't that evidence of legend growth?
Or it could simply reflect different emphases. Paul affirms that Jesus was buried and raised bodily. Mark's gospel does end abruptly, yet it clearly declares resurrection. Matthew, Luke, and John stress the physicality because skepticism had already arisen. That's not a legendary invention, but clarification. The core claim never shifts. Jesus died, was buried, and was raised. What develops is the manner of presentation, not the substance.
Rabbi Skobac also answers common arguments. For example, he says, why didn't authorities just produce the body? Maybe it had decomposed or had been moved.
If the body was still there, opponents could have displayed it and ended the movement instantly. Instead, the earliest Jewish response was, the disciples stole the body, Matthew 28:13, which admits the tomb was empty.
What about the idea that the disciples died for a lie? Rabbi Skobac says we don't know their fates, and people die for mistaken beliefs all the time.
But here's the difference. People die for beliefs they think are true. The disciples claimed they saw the risen Jesus. If they invented it, they would know it was false. Yet they were willing to suffer persecution, exile, and death. Their boldness is best explained by genuine conviction rooted in real encounters.
So your point is, the resurrection isn't just wishful thinking or legend growth. Rather, it is the best explanation for the empty tomb, the appearances, the disciples' transformation, and the rise of Christianity.
If Jesus rose, then God vindicated him as Messiah and Son of God. That explains why the Jewish Messianic hope didn't die with him, but was reborn in a way that changed the world.
The resurrection of Jesus from the dead is God's ultimate sign to the world that he is the Messiah of Israel, the Savior of the world, and the Son of God. Throughout history, many have tried to disprove it, but all have failed. On the other hand, God promises everlasting life to all who put their trust in Jesus. Why not ask the God of Israel to reveal himself to you today? If we can assist you in your journey of faith, please don't hesitate to contact us at info@lifeinmessiah.ca.